All right, welcome back and welcome to a very special episode of the Golden Whiskers podcast. Today is another episode in our special series called They Saved Me First. This series is all about the animals who show up for us when we need them most. You know, the ones who stick by our side when life gets hard and somehow help us keep going. Now, sometimes they help us smile again, sometimes they just sit with us in the mess, but either way, they make a difference. So you're going to hear real stories from people who have been through loss, change, or major life changes and how a pet of any kind helped them through it. Our special guest today is Michelle Yule, who's going to be talking about her great cat, Tasha. Before Tasha gets too upset, we'll just say, hello, Tasha. Hello, Michelle. Okay. Michelle was Michelle was holding on to Tasha during the intro just so she could make an appearance. Tasha had other plans, but so let me give like a little teaser here. Michelle, a few years ago, thought Tasha was just being a typical cat, independent, doing her own thing, sneaking over fences like she had a second family. And it turns out she did. So I'm not going to give away the story. Michelle will do that. But this is a great story. It's really one of those stories that gets to the heart of why I started this series. And it teaches us something powerful. So, Michelle, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here.
And thank you for letting us have a glimpse of Tasha there before she, you know, if you're watching this on video, you get to see a glimpse of Tasha. If you are just listening to us, just know Tasha was here for a brief moment and then she is off to an adventure. Who knows where she. Um, so we're going to talk about kind of this mysterious life Tasha was leading, but I want to kind of dig into who Tasha is now. So what is she like around the house these days? How old is she?
Okay, well, Tasha was born in 2017 on my birthday, and we adopted her in the fall of 2017 on my husband's birthday.
Oh,
So
that's great.
she kind of branches us. She was, I don't know, 6 or 7 weeks old. She was born in a ditch in Lake County, California, which is 2 hours north of San Francisco. It's one of the poorest counties in California, and I'm not sure how many kittens there were in this litter, but there were quite a few. And we had a cat die that spring, the spring before at 21. And so we had to grieve Callie for a couple of months. And my husband was like, I really fell into a kitten again. And so I'm so sorry. um, and so I got him a kitten for his birthday, which was in early fall. And we were charmed. This is the first kitten we'd had in a really, really long time. And we loved this cat, and she was great. And then in October of 2017, the Tubbs fires roared through the California wine country north of San Francisco, including us. At midnight, I woke up to smell of burning toast, I thought, but it was actually the hillside above us was on fire. I grabbed the cat first thing and I shoved her into the cat cage, put the cat cage in the car along with cat food and a bag of kitty litter. And then I went about and got everything else. And so I guess that's what I'd like to say. If you've got a major natural, you're going to have to evacuate. The first thing you should do is put your animal in the car. Otherwise, she could have run off anywhere, and that was a problem. And we ended up staying with our family, which ended up being another couple of cats and a dog and 5 children and 6 adults for a week at the beach while our houses did not burn, but it got really close. And so this is sort of where she began. She began in a position where she was moving around, she was traveling around, she was in stressful situations, but she actually was a lovely little kitten. And my son laughed. He said, Mom, you raised another Navy cat, because she switched houses 4 or 5 times within the first 2 months simply because of the evacuation. So we fast forward a couple more years into the COVID time. So we all know about being locked down. Tasha wanted to go outside every morning promptly. As soon as we could, she wanted to be out of the house. And I would watch her in the morning. I'd open the slider. She'd run across the yard, jump the fence, and be gone. But she wouldn't return until cat curfew, which in our family was 6 p.m. And I said to my husband one day, she's got another family somewhere. I mean, she's gone all day long. There's no sign of her anywhere around the house. And he said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. What other family would there be?" I mean, we live in a suburban neighborhood,
Mm.
but very odd. And so it just went on for a couple of months. Every morning out she went. Oh, I mean, I watch her. She'd jump the fence and be gone. And I put cedar house behind me because there's a lot of shrubbery and tall trees, overgrown shrubbery. I didn't know these people, and I thought, well, all right, she comes home every night and is on our bed to sleep with us. So I guess we offer some sort of comfort.
Right, yeah. A bed and food.
Apparently. So this went on for a couple of months, and then one day it changed. She was back hanging around the house. She'd be in here while I wrote or whatever. And well, okay, I don't know what happened, but fine, she's here. So, I don't know, maybe 6, 8 months later, I'm walking home, and I walked up the street behind me just for a different walk, and there she was on the lawn in the house behind me, lolling about. And I said, "Well, what are you doing here? You belong across the street. You don't belong in the street. You look over here. You come home with me." And she's like, lolling about. And I'm kind of arguing with her, "Come home. There's no point picking her up because you just saw what happened when I picked her up." And then a, a woman about my age, I guess, comes out of the house and she says, "Is this your cat?" I said, "Yeah, this is Tasha. This is my cat." She says, "Oh, we wondered whose cat she was. We didn't know what her name was." And I said, "Oh, well, so you know her. Let me tell you what happened." And it turned out that her husband was wheelchair bound. I had met him a couple of years before, and nice guy, Chris was his name, but he wasn't in a wheelchair when I met him. She said, "Well, he came down with some disease and he was in a wheelchair. And every morning we would wheel him out into the yard and he would sit there for an hour to just enjoy the morning." We're in California, the weather's beautiful.
Mm.
And every morning, this cat would jump the fence and she'd come and spend the morning sitting next to him. I was startled. My cat was doing this? Yeah. And she would always put her paw on his foot as if to comfort him. And eventually she'd jump up into his lap and he just enjoyed his cat. Well, his condition deteriorated. I don't remember what he had now, and if she even told me. And eventually, he couldn't go outside anymore in the wheelchair. And then Tasha wanted to go in the house with us, and we're like, "Oh no, you're somebody's cat. This is obvious. You belong somewhere else. You don't come in the house." But she was persistent. She is persistent. And so finally, we thought, well, what could it hurt? We never fed her. She said we never gave her anything to eat, maybe a little water, but never fed her. So because we knew she had a home, but we just didn't know where. And so she would come into the house and she'd spend the day sitting on the couch next to Chris. We would pet her, we'd praise her. She was just content just to be there with him. She was about 4 years old at this time. So I don't know, there she was. But the woman said there came a really important day when she was frantic about him. She was on his lap and she kept kneading his leg, desperately kneading his leg. And we thought, what's up with that? Why is she doing that? Chris wasn't saying anything. And they looked over at him and they realized he was having a stroke. And because the cat had called attention to him, called the ambulance and they got him to the hospital. And he survived a little bit longer, but eventually he died. And I said, "Oh my word, if only I had known, I would have sent her over with treats every morning. I just feel sorry." I mean, and I'm looking at my cat thinking, "You don't act like this at home at all." And she said, "Oh gosh, I don't know how Chris would have made it that last 6 to 8 months if she hadn't been every single day." And I was so touched. I thought, I had no idea that my cat was a comfort cat.
Yeah.
She just that cat. And I said, "Well, I'm grateful to hear that. And I'm sorry I couldn't come over and help. If I'd known, I would have." She sent a message home on her collar. But I was just so gratified that this cat who was meanwhile still lolling on the grass and rolling over and whatever had ministered to this man in his last days. And the family was very thankful for her. And they have since moved away. We've never seen them again, never talked to them again. But we looked at our cat and thought, wow, you have a whole different life than what we know. And it's a good one. And thank you. So there you go. You never know.
What an incredible story. And I know you first shared that with me on a blog post that you wrote, which I'll link up in the show notes. So I appreciate that. And I read this and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so incredible because you didn't know about it and you had like no clue. It's like
I didn't do anything except feed the cat.
Yeah. Right. So, do you have any sense on how Tasha, cats are very intuitive, I think, and they can be they as I've interviewed other people about their dogs and cats and rabbits, animals can help us through challenging times or help. I think the other kind of mind-blowing thing was this person wasn't in your family. It was a complete stranger. Do you have any sense for anything else that happened prior to that that maybe led your cat to be a comfort to this gentleman that he didn't know?
No, I mean, there weren't elderly people or, my husband and I are middle aged, but there
Yeah.
was no one in our life like that. But she, again, because of our evacuation experience during the fires, she knew what it was to go from various situations, which were emotionally fraught. I mean, we didn't know if our house was going to survive or not for 2 weeks. Eventually, it did.
Yeah.
The fires came within a couple of blocks, but and I think that cats have an intuitive sense of that because sometimes if you're feeling sad, my cat will come and sit next to you. She won't do anything. She'll just kind of sit right next to you and keep you content. She wants to be on our bed at night or in a chair near us. She's always following us from room to room. We are her people. We travel quite a bit and we usually have a house sitter. And she's always really glad when we're home. She's in the suitcase, of course, when we're flying.
Right.
Oh, oh, wow, suitcase. I think I should get in. I mean, any cat, right? This is a box. I think I belong inside of it. So I don't know that she's necessarily intuitive like that, but she was able to pick up on emotions. When our grandchildren come, she's in the middle watching that.
Mm.
So she wants to be near and observing, and necessarily in the middle of it, and doesn't particularly care to draw attention to herself, except yelling because we're not feeding her back
Right. Yeah.
there.
Exactly. You haven't fed me in the last
Right?
Mom, you haven't fed me in the last 5 minutes.
Golly. Or Michelle, you belong right there at the door. Remember, your job is to open the door and close the door whenever I want to go out, in or out, in or
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I'm the queen around here.
And I run the show here.
Yeah.
So
I think one detail that really stood out was how Tasha needed Chris's leg before his stroke. And what do you make of that? Or do you think somehow Tasha knew something bad was happening?
obviously, she recognized that he wasn't doing well. She
Mm.
spent a lot of time with him at that point and spent the whole days with him, right? And comforted him. She really meant a lot to him. And he wasn't quite so alone because this cat was there. And then the family could go about their business. They had home business and the wife could work and just glance over and the cat was sitting next to her, purring maybe. I mean, who knows? She's a character.
Yeah.
So
It's almost like finding out like someone in your family is like a spy or something, like living a double life, like,
it was something to laugh. And it's so funny because she has a doppelganger in the neighborhood. I mean,
oh,
she was going wild at the same sliding door one morning. I look out there and there's a cat who looks exactly like her on the other side, kind of cheering at her. She's like, whoa, what's going on here? And that cat lives on the other side of the street, down the street. And I ran into that cat more than once. Thought, what are you? Same thing. What are you doing down here? You don't live here. We're up the street. It's not my cat. Oh, so smart. But
playing tricks on you.
yeah, I mean, she's a great cat. She's sort of like a Russian blue type, but she's not a purebred. I mean, she was born in a ditch in Lake County. And in fact, the litter was big enough and had enough different parentage that I didn't realize the cat in the cage next to her was her sister, or I would have bought it because she's a sleek short hair, and the cat next to her was a long hair, all black long hair cat with different colored eyes. And I thought that can't possibly be related to this cat. And well, it was. There you are. She's a
Um,
single cat, but
yeah. Now I know this experience with Tasha and your neighbor was a few years ago. So if you kind of could think maybe back then when you first found out what she was doing this whole time, how did that experience change how you see Tasha, if it did?
I just had recognized her as having such a soft heart, if you will.
Mm.
I just hadn't seen that. I didn't particularly need it, and that might have been why I didn't notice it. But since then, we've talked about, oh, look, here she is sitting right next to us. And my husband was, she just wants to be in the same room with us. If we're in the bedroom and have closed the door for whatever reason, she's frantically trying to get in.
Mm.
As just you saw, you just open the door, she comes in and she doesn't really say anything. She jumps up on the couch. She'll go, I mean, on the chair or on the bed next to us and just sits and watches us. Sometimes she perches up on the high boy so she can get a, side of the land. When our grandchildren are here playing a game or whatever, she's in the room, not necessarily involved like a dog would be, but watching. And she just apparently really likes people to observe. I doesn't necessarily want to participate with them. She
Yeah.
plays games, but not many.
What did you learn about animals, connection, or even grief from kind of just witnessing this whole chapter unfold? I know like it's a little bit unique in that you weren't witnessing it as it was unfolding. You learned about it afterwards. But what do you think now, just maybe reflecting back about animals, connection, how they can be there to support people in need? What kind of comes to your mind?
Well, a cat can often seem like an aloof creature. Yes, I will deign to let you open the door for me. Oh, maybe I will eat your kit, whatever, or kit cat food. And yet they are, I think that they're far more intuitive than we give them credit for. Obviously, they are spending their lives observing us, especially on a house cat. She's not a house cat, but a house cat, the only entertainment is when you are home.
Mm.
So they're watching. We currently have a friend living with us who has two cats. So we have three cats household now, and she doesn't like those cats. I mean, they've been here for quite a while, and we have fights at the top of the stairs and at the same sliding door. And you'd think she'd be used to it by now, but she doesn't care for other cats. Thank you in her life. She doesn't have a problem telling any dogs to, lay down. I'm here when any dogs visit. When we were evacuated the second time because of another fire, we had 7 children, 3 cats, and a border collie puppy, along with the 6 adults. And she didn't let that dog have any, she kept that dog in line. She didn't care about the kids, but the dog. And then the cats we had separated. We put cats in different rooms. There was no point in involving the cats.
Yeah.
So she's had a lot of varied experiences that your normal house cat isn't going to have.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes her more empathetic. I don't know if that makes her more sensitive to others, but we do know that she wants to be with people when
Mm.
we're home. She wants to be in the same room with us.
I think it's also really cool that she helped somebody she barely knew, or you barely knew,
Yeah.
which kind of feels like, oh, we could take a lesson from that, right? Do you think she changed how you see your role as a neighbor or a community member? I know you were saying like, oh, I wish I knew this. Maybe like you thought that was like something you could do more, but how did that maybe change, if anything, how you feel like view your role in the community there?
Well, I mean, we all want to help each other when we can. I don't know my neighbors particularly well, even though I've been here quite a while. I mean, we know them. We flyers, we exchange phone numbers, we text back
Right.
and forth from time to time. Last summer, this is not a cat story, but I inadvertently planted gigantic pumpkins in my front yard, and I had 4 pumpkins that were more than 65 pounds, huge. Everything the talk of the neighborhood. Everybody in the neighborhood knew our house. Originally the neighbors on the other side knew us because of our cat. This last year, they all know us because we had giant pumpkins in our front. How did you do? How did you do this? I planted them in the yard, and I left on vacation, and I came back. Like, I don't. I mean, I am attentive to what goes on around me. I seem to have missed some significant moments, like the cat and the pumpkins. But oh, um, the story of the cat was touching to the neighbors who heard that.
Mm.
Again, she didn't have to cross the street. Our neighbor across the street died earlier this year, and he knew her, certainly, but she didn't spend any time with him. So I'm not sure what that says or not. But again, it would have been crossing the street. So the one behind us was just over the fence.
Yeah.
We have cats in and out all around. There are a lot of cats that jump at things. We're talking about an 8-foot fence. We're not talking about a picket fence. It's tall, but they're more sensitive than we know. They can hear better. They're watching more. Cats like to perch on our fences and look into the different yards. So that must have been how she even knew about Chris. And then she went to investigate, right? And then,
Mhm.
well, wait a minute. Maybe I have a ministry here with this man.
Yeah, I feel like cats can sense things that even we can't pick up. Who knows? Maybe like cats can sense when a fire is coming before we can or before the news reports on it. And I feel like I haven't been in your situation with fires and such, but I'm guessing that in times of natural disasters, as an example, that can bring a community together, even just to and be there for each other, support each other, and that sort of thing. Kind of wanted to start to wrap up with this. Did this change your relationship with Tasha afterwards? Were you tempted to spoil her a little bit more or look at her differently?
I think I respected her a lot more because I suspected I mean, I didn't realize that she was living a double life. And it just kind of made me look at her and think, no, I wonder what you're up to now. But again, she stayed home. Yeah. She was with us all through COVID, but she wasn't across with Chris. She was in the house with us. She often sits next to me right here on the um, table and watches me write. And maybe she gets a chance, she sprawls across my desk so I can't look at my calendar when I need to.
Right.
Yeah, she's a cat. She wants to be the center of attention, but she's fine if you don't, make a big fuss about her. But you need to know she's there. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. And so in terms of just that cat nature, I appreciate that there was a sensitivity in her that I just didn't realize, and
Mm.
that I need to be a little more careful. Maybe I'm hurting her feelings when I won't let her get her, who knows? But I'm just gratified to think that we were able to feed, tend, take to the vet a cat who then was able to share with a man in need, a family in need. And
Yeah.
that's a wonderful gift. And I'll never forget one cat I owned.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much for sharing this story of Tasha. It's a really powerful reminder that animals don't need permission to show up for somebody; they just do. And I'm just kind of imagining in my head, like Chris just being comforted, like every single day by Tasha in his last few months, and what a gift she gave him. And when you think of it that way, it's like it's really heartwarming. It stirs up some emotions in me, and you got to feel good too, like yeah, like my cat did this. And how amazing to give Chris a better final few months of his life. So thanks for sharing. And I do want to give you an opportunity to share with our listeners. I know you had this story on a blog post.
Right.
So if anybody wants to read that blog post or really just follow more of your work, I know you're an author. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how we can read your stuff and connect with you.
Well, thank you. You can always find me at my website, www.michelleule.com, and where I write stories about my research serendipities, the interesting stories of my life. I've had a fascinating life with just things falling into my lap, giant pumpkins in my yard.
Right.
There's another blog post right there. And I'm actually a historical writer. I've written seven historical novellas. A Log Cabin Christmas collection was on the New York Times bestsellers list. So this is what New York Times bestsellers do. They feed their cats. And, and I'm the biographer of Letty Cowman and Biddy Chambers, who both wrote devotionals, Strings in the Desert and My Atmosphere is Highest. So you can find me there if you're interested in all the crazy research things that have happened to me. I'm on Substack, same name, or as the Eclectic Researcher. And thanks a lot. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I love it. I'll make sure to link up all your connection URLs and blog posts with this story on our show notes. So again, thank you for honoring Tasha and Chris's story with us. Again, it's one I won't forget. I don't think our listeners will as well. So everybody listening, thank you so much. If this story moved you like it did me, I'd love for you to hit follow or subscribe. Stick with us for more of these powerful stories between people and their pets who show up in the most unexpected ways. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.